Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And as we all know, I normally do this program by myself. So who's that guy?
Hey, listen, I told Craig last week, folks, to just get a picture of me, set it next to him, and then just keep going and saying, Mike, what do you think? And then answering the question for me and just snapping to my picture for a moment and coming back. So I thought that would have worked. But my name is Mike Borski. I am your co host from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most from the co host with the most here on the Rundown to a News, Conservative Views. And it's great to be back, Craig, after being stranded in a couple of towns in the Southeast.
Well, it is actually very, very good to have you back. And as I said on Friday, I realized that you were dealing with weather challenges on Friday, but at least you didn't have to deal with mudslides.
Oh yeah, listen, no mudslides, no earthquakes, no floods, no wildfires. No, we didn't have any of that. We were good.
Yeah. How was your weekend?
Let's see. Saturday was a very long radio day for me. Between radio and some video stuff, that was about an 8-9 hour day on air, and so that was a real tough day. And then Sunday was spent at the a local veterans organization in celebration of VFW for
Nice.
September 11th.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it was a very interesting weekend. I was surprised at how little news there was on 9/11 on Sunday. That just really, I mean, especially you figure it's the
Yeah.
opening weekend of the NFL. I noticed that if there
The
were
what? The
tributes at
what?
NFL stadiums, they did not televise them.
I did not realize there was the NFL was back on.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I was like, aren't we? You kind of get used to the idea of it's 9/11. I didn't realize it's the 21st anniversary of 9/11, so not the 20th. So
Yep.
it's not like that milestone, but I still kind of expected more. I don't know.
The local news here did a good job when it came on around 11 or so, or when I saw the repeat at 3 in the morning. It was they did a pretty good job. In fact, one of the things they did, and I think the tallest story building we have in Orlando is like a 26, 27-story building, but the firemen from all over the state gathered to go up and down it 4 times to simulate the 110 steps of the World Trade Center that the
Hmm.
firemen had to take in New York. So that was a big deal. It looks like a lot of local stuff had gone on, a lot of honor guards, a lot of things. It just didn't look like it made a lot of media coverage.
Right, right. Well, once again, I'm actually very kind of happy that people are still talking about, still remember it, because I think it is an important thing to understand when you realize it was probably, in my opinion, the last time we came together as a nation, and it wasn't about Republican, Democrat. It was about our nation is under attack, and we need to let the world know that we're not putting up with this stuff. And unfortunately, that attitude has not continued to this day.
No, it has not. But that's the cycle, right? If you go back all the way to the turn of the last century, you can follow those ups and downs of support for soldiers in politics, and then 20 or so years after that, just end up where we are today at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. Well, luckily it's a pendulum, and hopefully
Yep.
the pendulum is starting to swing back.
A good swing back is always good. Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A good backswing.
Yep. Yep.
All right, Mike. Let's go ahead and kick off the show with a note
All
of
right.
recognition to our sponsors.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about our good friends over at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net, hitmanindustries.net. If you got yourself an AR in the past 5 years or so, odds are you probably got one of their barrels, but now you could buy direct from them for your own build. So go to hitmanindustries.net and check out their gear. And then you have the California Republican Assembly fighting the good fight behind enemy lines. Make sure you visit them with a couple dollars as well. They can't fight that fight for free. And then, of course, if you want awesome combat gear, tactical gear, you go to uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. Look, the links to all of their websites are in the description of this video. So as I always recommend, please go there, check them out. If you like what you see, kick them down some cash. Let them know that the guys over at The Rundown sent you.
There you go.
All right.
Get them.
let's get into today's topics and let's start off with remembering 9/11. I just think to me it's important because there are certain events in history, Mike, where you remember where you were when you heard about it or when you experienced it
Yep.
as it was happening. So I just kind of wanted each of us, and we'll start with you. Go ahead and share with me your experience on 9/11. What were you doing? Where were you at when you heard about what was going on 9/11?
You know, I was telling the story last night when somebody asked me as well, and I don't even know that it's believable. Um, I was in a federal training facility doing an anti-terrorism class, and we were discussing the first World Trade Center bombing when one of our instructors came in who had been teaching the previous day on Monday and said that an airplane had crashed into the World Trade Center, and we didn't believe him. We assumed it was some sort of a drill or something like that. But when the alarm finally went off, I mean, an audible alarm locking the facility down, we had a picture of Osama bin Laden on the board talking about his involvement with the first World Trade Center bombing, not knowing until what 6 weeks, 2 months later, Craig, that he was even involved with the bombings on 9/11, the attacks on 9/11. So it was just kind of eerie later on when you were like, oh man, that dude, we had that dude's face up on the TV or on the monitor when it happened. So yeah, that was an interesting day.
Oh yeah. So it was funny because I was actually out running. I was actually training for my first marathon. I was running and I had my headphones on and I'm listening to the radio and I'm listening to a local R&B station, right? So as I'm tuning in and I start paying attention, it's like it's not a station that you are expecting to hear anyone talk about anything serious, right?
Right.
You're listening to morning, the morning talk and hip hop music
Yep.
and they're talking about America being under attack. And I'm like, what the heck are they talking about? So I'm about a mile in. I just turn right around and I head straight back home and I turn on the TV. I was a a teacher at the time. I was teaching at high school. And I remember getting a call saying, yeah, school's going to be closed today. No, there's not going to be any school today. I just remember spending most of the day, or at least the better part of the morning, sitting there in front of the TV, watching what was going on and not believe, just utterly, just incomplete and utter disbelief that it was going on.
Yep.
Because you think about it, this was like the first major attack on U.S. soil uh, in my lifetime. Well, let me clarify. There was the first World Trade Center bombing, uh,
Right.
but this one just seemed like so much. Well, it was so much bigger because obviously a lot more people lost their lives as a result of this one. But it was, and I remember the weeks following. I just remember that it was once again, it wasn't Republican versus Democrat. It wasn't rich versus poor. It wasn't East versus West. It was
Right.
literally America came together. And it's the only time that I can remember in my entire life where that happened and it lasted as long as it did. Um, but it was
Yep.
definitely a life changing thing because nothing was ever the same. Air travel wasn't the same. I Things were very very different post 9/11.
Yep. And now we want to defund the police and take away their qualified immunity. Yes, we love them so much.
Right. Well, exactly. It's like all of a sudden we forget everything that they did. But look, once again, not the first time. Not the first time we've treated first responders so shy. Well, let me clarify.
Nope.
It's not the first time. It's not the only time because we saw it happen
There
right
you go.
here with COVID,
There you go.
where we, first responders were the ones who put their lives on the line in order to help treat people who were
Yep.
dealing with COVID. And then as soon as the vaccine was created, they were told if you don't take the vaccine, even if you had COVID, even though we
Yep.
know that if you got COVID, that you have your own antibodies. We still, as a nation, decided to tell many of our first responders, you don't get the jab, you lose your job.
Yep. And many did. Many are still fighting for it back right now. So we continue to follow those stories, waiting for it to happen. See, so we can bring that information to you.
Right. And you know, the other thing is, and I think the important thing to learn from 9/11 was if we have a weak national posture abroad, if we're not fighting wars, and I know people are like, well, should we be involved or engaged in places abroad? Well, oftentimes, in particular when it comes to terrorism, if we're not fighting on their territory, guess what? We're fighting on ours. And that's
Yep,
what happened
absolutely
here.
right. Absolutely right. Yep, yep,
So I
yep.
think
And listen,
George Bush, George W. Bush, learned that lesson, which is the reason why we took it to Afghanistan and we took it to Iraq. And you know,
right.
you say what you want about weapons of mass destruction. I still believe to this day that they were there. I think that I think that we I still believe they were there. You can say what you want, but I still believe that they were there. But having said that, the 20 years since, as we have been fighting and having troops fighting there in the Middle East, it is one of the biggest reasons why we have not been fighting here on our own soil.
Oh, exactly right. You know, that's it's the same reason we had for getting involved in World War II and Korea and Vietnam and everything else that we've done since, because it was to stop it overseas rather than having it on your front doorstep. And this came to our front doorstep, and the reason this came to our front doorstep is because of the weak policies of the Clinton administration that allowed it to happen. They'd actually had Osama bin Laden targeted in their sights at one point and did not take him out, knowing what he was capable of doing. And listen, the second World Trade Center bombing, 9/11, started the day after the first one started. Clinton administration. This was they were angry at Clinton and his policies, and that's one of the reasons we got 9/11. And that just so happened to happen inside George Bush's first term, because plans were already 5-6 years in the works at that point.
Right. They had already been here. They were already training.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were already here. So we already it was already in the works, as you said. But now that's not the only big anniversary, Mike. That was that was yesterday. There's also Benghazi, right? Now you know that Benghazi actually happened on the anniversary of 9/11. There was believed, and there was a lot of chatter that something was going to be going on during that. If you recall, the then Obama administration had basically said, "Oh yeah, no, there are these protests and riots regarding this video, right? This video that had been created." But in essence, Mike, what we know that it was a coordinated attack on our troops there in Benghazi, and for some reason, it took forever for us to get troops, for us to get help to the folks there in Benghazi, and Americans lost their lives as a result, once again, of American inaction.
Yeah, it took 13 hours, as a matter of fact, for them to get there. And I think, what was it? No actual U.S. military ever responded until well after, and it was a Marine Corps fast team, if I recall. Yeah, this was just incredible failure of policy, lies, the ability to believe that the administration could control the media 100% totally, and they did not. And one of the ways that this only got out was those that were there were calling loved ones back home and telling them what was really going on, so that it could be reported to the news, and then inquiries could be made. We know. We saw the video. We saw the video, the testimony given at the Capitol. We know that they sat and did nothing, and Hillary Clinton made a decision. Not only made a decision not to do anything, made a decision to restrict those in the U.S. military that were close by from going, and including general officers. So we know this happened. Now, of course, she's never been held responsible. Nobody in the administration has ever been held responsible. But you know what? You stick something up on Capitol Hill. You make enough of a circus of it. You let it go on for long enough, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. And it's amazing that the Democrats can't take that hint from the January 6th, riots that they're looking at. The longer they draw this out, the more no one cares at all. But yeah, Benghazi was 4 heroes dead, and Hillary's still alive. So, yeah.
Well, and what makes it even worse is, once again, how they knowingly, after the attack, after it had occurred, they knowingly kept putting forward a false narrative that it was about this video, that it was not a planned or coordinated attack. They knew that it wasn't about that. But they wanted the midterm elections were coming up, and they didn't want to lose in the upcoming midterm. Was it the midterm elections?
In 10, let's see, 10 years ago, yes, it was the presidential elections coming up.
No, it was 12 years ago.
Benghazi.
No, you're right. You're right. It was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was it was no, it was the midterms. No, you're right. My bad. Anyway, but the point is they knew re-election was coming. They knew an election was coming. And in this case, you're right. It was re-election. And they just flat out lied because they didn't want to, they were trying to push the narrative that their Middle East policy was working. And we all know, most of us knew then, some of us knew then, most of us now know that their Middle East policy was an epic failure.
And a lie.
Yes.
Not only a failure, but a lie. So, again, listen, we know where they were. We know how they felt about it. We saw, old HRC up there on the House having to give testimony, and remember her response. Remember when questioned and when pressed about why didn't they do this and why didn't they send Soch? Remember her response. It was, what difference does it make?
Right.
Okay. She doesn't care about any of you. She doesn't care about any of us. She considers herself to be an elite, to be a sovereign, a royal, so to say, and they don't care about you at all or us at all.
No, not at all. And the point is that it matters. It matters that when you choose to put people in harm's way, you have a duty to provide the resources necessary for them to be able to defend themselves. And by the way, to be able to defend them. I mean, you literally put them in the middle of hostile territory. And then when they tell you they are in danger and they need help, you're nowhere to be found. And then on top of it, okay, fine. You know what? How about this? How about you own that mistake? How about you own it? Instead, you try to cover it up. You delete tens of thousands of emails. You wash the server with bleach. You smash cell phones in order to keep the information, in order to keep the truth from getting out. But, no indictments there.
Folks, you want to know why, why'd she delete the servers? She didn't have to delete the servers. This is why. Do you forget about Benghazi? Do you forget about the actions of those people? Well, clearly the folks out there do. Listen, you watching us now, we know we're not you, but this is, when you're talking to your ignorant coworkers and friends or whatever, these are the points you need to be making.
Yes.
Listen, look, the current president, he was in the room when they decided to let those 4 men die. Listen, Ambassador Chris Stevens was there, friends of most of them.
Yes.
And they said, "Now we don't. Sorry, no big deal. It's no big deal." He knew the risk.
Right, and that's exactly what happened. So if you want to know why, then once again, this goes back to the whole why were Hillary's emails such a big deal? This is why.
Yep.
Right. It was because, first of all, we knew more than we knew before 9/11. We knew more than they said we knew before. We knew more than we knew before Benghazi. We knew more than they admit they knew during Benghazi. And then afterwards, they still knew more than they admitted that they know. And they covered it all up for one reason. That was re-election. They wanted to win an election, so they didn't want to deal with the truth. And guess what? People died.
Yeah, spectacular.
Plain and simple. And by the way, had Mitt Romney actually won that election, I'm willing to bet you that there would have been some a little bit more investigation. I'm not a big Mitt Romney fan, but I'm willing to bet there would have been a lot more investigations into Benghazi and into Hillary's emails.
Of course there would have.
Just saying.
Not saying.
Just saying.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to our next topic. Oh, wrong person. Let's move on to our next topic here. Next one, we have Title IX. Now, for those of you who do not know, Title IX is actually, it's a thing that deals with sports, right? And what in particular, but what it says is that resources will be spent in order to help promote equally men and women's sports, right? Used to be Title IX just had to do with the funding of sports, right? So in other words, you had to make sure that women's programs, that women had equal amount of money spent on their programs as men's in college and in high school. Well, in about 96, there was a court ruling that basically said, nope, spending the equal amount of money isn't enough. So now we're going to require you to have the same number of participants and slots. Now, this is controversial because you had a lot of programs wound up cutting because you can't make more women participate in sports. So their solution was, we'll just cut men's sports. So where I went to school, for example, they cut the men's football program. Now, it was kind of short-sighted because they eventually would wind up cutting a number of other sports because football funded the other programs, but I digress. Well, now the Biden administration has put forth rules. When I say rules, because this is not, I say rules because this is not a law. This is something that is being proposed by the administration as an interpretation. So what they want to do, Mike, is they want to put in a rule that will actually expand Title IX protections to include sexual orientation and gender identity. Meaning it will protect those folks like Leah Thomas or Thompson, like the swimmer there from Penn, University of Pennsylvania, a number of different track stars. But once again, their whole goal, Mike, is to create slots and provide protections for people of other genders. Now, my question, Mike, is how are you going to provide protections for all 72 genders in college sports or in high school sports that they claim exist?
You can't. It's impossible. It's an exercise in futility. But they're going to continue to push down that road because that's wokeism, Craig. Right? We got to go with the woke, and they do. And then we sit back here 6 months from now, a year from now, and talk about how wokeism killed this organization or that business or this school. And that's what we're going to end up seeing here. There's absolutely no way to do this without it being ridiculous. All right, all 72 line up in front. We're gonna have to we got a special section for you. Oh, what? You do what? So it's never going to turn out right. It's absolutely horrendous.
No, it is horrendous, and in the end, it's going to wind up killing sports. But see, Mike, it is what the socialist or the social justice revolution does. See, the goal is not to build up transgender or LGBTQ athletes in sports. It's to tear down all other athletes and all other sports. It's to say, look, what they do and their goal to achieve equality is not to bring everybody up to this level. It's to tear everybody down to this level, right? They want to destroy the institution.
Yeah. It takes top tier athletes and turns them into not top tier athletes, right?
Right.
How do they compete with that? How do they compete with? I've worked all my life to get here, and now, we got a dude wearing a wig and he gets to compete in my sport. It's just end this already, please.
Well, I'm just wondering where are all the in particular the Title IX activists who fought for Title IX in order to create a level of equality and provide for female athletes. Where are they at? Why are they not standing up and saying, hey, what up with that? I mean, now all of a sudden we're going to now change sports, change college sports and change high school sports so that women no longer have the opportunity to be able to achieve in those realms. Now, part of that would require them admitting that there is a physical difference between men and women, which, by the way, is a reality, happens to be a reality. So I think maybe, I don't know if it's that part or if it's that they're afraid of the criticism from the woke left.
I don't think that women stand up for this because, they don't make that LeBron money. They make more like, Mike and Craig money. So they don't want to be ostracized, from their daily living that they're getting, the daily, livable paycheck that they're getting from women's professional sports. And folks, if you haven't looked at it, it is minuscule. But you know what? I understand because it's based on the number of seats you put in the stands and the number of people that buy your jerseys. So till that happens, no, it's not going to be on equal footing, for women's sports and men's sports, and that's the way the business world works, folks. You don't get to spend without making.
Well, what's interesting is you're starting to see in some sports that's just you are actually seeing women making significant amounts of money. Women's tennis is probably the best example because guess what? People are going to watch women's tennis. In some areas of mixed martial arts, you're starting to see women starting to make more money. Once again, those who rise up to the higher levels. The biggest challenge I think they have in women's MMA is there are not enough women competing in MMA. So they don't have the level of competition that they would otherwise like. But then again, I don't know many women who are interested in competing in mixed martial arts.
No, neither do I. And listen, but I know just a couple more than that are men wanting to be involved in it.
There you go.
It's not like everybody's lining up to get their face beat in. It's great exercise, but as far as wanting to take it up full time,
it's great exercise till you get punched in the face.
That's right. I was saying this ain't a movie. Yeah.
Or let me put it this way: kicked in the face.
That's it. In the face.
In the face.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting stuff. But so I'm just wondering what exactly they mean by including gender identity. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so on a national level that basically they're trying to make it so that transgender women can compete in sports with biological women. So basically they want to make it so women who used to be men who've gone through puberty, by the way, they're still men, but women who used to be men, they've gone through puberty, and now they have a distinct physical advantage to be able to compete in women's sports, and that's just not fair. I mean, that undermines the basic concept of sports, and that's fair competition.
Craig, remember, I know you called it, biological women. That's not the right term. It's people of cervix.
People of cervix. Oh, I stand corrected.
People of cervix. Remember, we had that story. They are now referred to as people of cervixes.
Or uterus. Is it uterus or cervix?
So I think it was cervix. I can go pull it up if you like.
No, we don't need to. That's okay. It is amusing yet sad either way.
It is. It is very sad, but yeah. So,
but we all know that is in the end their goal. Now let's talk about something else that is sad. Now, this isn't exactly a news story, but it is something worthy of discussion. So Jennifer Lawrence, she is the actress of oh gosh, what I'm trying to remember.
Movies
She's been in a bunch
TVs.
of different movies. She's been in the X-Men movies. She was in the Mockingjay movies. I forget what they're called. The Hunger Game movies. So she actually came out recently. There was an article, an interview that was done in Vogue magazine. And in this interview in Vogue magazine, she talked about how important it was that people get involved in politics, that they get involved in that. She's like, she's disassociated herself from people who are not involved in politics, who do refuse to be engaged politically. Because she's like, oh, but it's so important. Now, she is a liberal. But what's interesting about this, Mike, is that she says she actually has nightmares about Tucker Carlson, right? Now, there's another person that has been involved. This person was actually directly involved in her career. And by the way, for those of you who do not know, Tucker Carlson is probably the most watched conservative on, actually, let me clarify. No, yeah, he's the most watched conservative. Probably the second most watched figure who talks politics and whatnot on Fox News. He has a nightly show, and he is always definitely right of center. So I agree with some of his takes, and some of his takes I disagree with. But what's funny is that she finds that she has nightmares about him, but not Harvey Weinstein, who was who played a big role in her career. Now, Mike, what do we know about Mr. Harvey Weinstein? or Weinstein?
Oh, he went to the same school as Cuomo did there on how to seek favors. Yeah. Listen, the guy is, I don't know what you call it. He made people famous via them performing for him privately, and it's you always hear joking about the casting couch and everything else. Well, I guess Weinstein's was well known, and he'd tell the likes of Jennifer Lawrence or other people that wanted to be in a movie to, hey, come on up to my room about 2:00. We'll have an audition. So 2 in the a.m. By the way, yeah.
Exactly. His whole point, his whole thing was and he, by the way, he is doing jail time for the stuff that he did. So this,
Yep.
I'm not going to say there's no doubt to what he did because but all I know is, according to a jury of his peers, dude's guilty, right? And but yet for some reason, Tucker Carlson, who has done no such thing to anybody, has done absolutely nothing but express his views and his values via the media. She has nightmares about him. She's disowned her parents or her family, not because they're conservative, but because they just choose not to put politics at the front level of their lives because they've chosen not to become woke leftists is her point. So she has chosen, she's now in conflict with them. She's talking about trying to repair her relationship with her father. Once again, they're liberals like her. They're just not woke liberals.
I want to help her out here, Greg. I want to help her and all of those out there like her that suffer from, Tucker Carlson derangement syndrome or whatever it is that they have. I want to show them. If you'll look right here, Craig, this is the remote control. All right. It's the on and off button for the TV, right? And these are the channel changers. I could even mute it if I want. This is the way to keep Tucker Carlson out of your dreams. Change the channel, all right? Walk away from the TV, and you won't have to worry about Tucker Carlson coming for you in your nightmares.
Funny how that works, huh? Funny how that works. But
amazing.
Then again, here's the thing. A lot of people do get that because you notice the ratings for CNN, in the toilet. MSNBC, They've always been in the toilet. Now they're down in the drain. Yeah. I mean, the truth is nobody's watching them. That's why it's so funny when they criticize people who have viewerships that are tens, 100 times larger than their own.
Yeah. Yep. They find out months later.
And they only have credibility because they're talking about those other folks.
That's right.
Donald Trump. All right, let's move on to our parting shots.
All right, let me see if you got one of the ones I sent you. Go right ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to add one to it also, but all right.
All right, so the first one that I wanted to bring up, and I'm using this one because I will always say that I am not a conspiracy theorist. I am a conspiracy connoisseur. Having said that, I have met my match with my good friend, Mr. Mike Piwowarski, because he happens to actually believe in conspiracy theories that oftentimes, more often than I would think, have actually turned out to be true. Or at least there's significant evidence that they are true. And so this is Mr. Mike Piwowarski. You want to go ahead and describe this one, Mike?
It's a person in a tracksuit putting on about, 60 or 70 medals around their neck, like at an Olympic Games kind of thing. And it says, me, if conspiracy theories coming true became an Olympic sport.
Yeah, I just think that Mike believes in puts out so many conspiracy theories out there that eventually some of them have to become true. I'm a bit more selective in my conspiracy theories in terms of how interesting they are. But having said that, most of them turn out to not be true.
Yeah, but if it sticks, I'm a genius, right? Hey,
right, exactly. We don't remember the losses; we just remember the wins.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Exactly.
All right, these next two, actually. Wait, what was that? Oh, yeah, there's that one. Okay, these next two actually have to do with. Well, we know that last week, and Mike hasn't had a chance to actually comment on the passing of Queen Elizabeth. But in retrospect, Mike has decided to share a couple of parting shots that he found to be humorous, that I also find to be humorous. This first one,
Here
if
we go.
Donald Trump was still on Twitter, this most definitely would have been one of his tweets.
Yep. It's from Donald Trump, at Donald Trump, the real Donald Trump. And it says, I never told anybody, but she knighted me in private.
We all know. I love Donald Trump, but we also know he has a tendency to play fast and loose with the facts. I always like to say he likes to put dubs on it. Okay.
Yeah, you know, it's we say you know, we were at the veterans organization this past weekend, that there's a 20% BS factor to most stories that you tell. You know, you're trying to make it sound a little better. You know, you're trying to raise the awareness, get to more participation. He's of the same school. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but he puts a little more 20% on it.
I think I'm good with
it. Does make the stories more entertaining, though. You are correct.
Yep.
All right, this next one. I never actually thought of Betty White as the Queen Mother of the United States, but kind of fits. And therefore, we have this. And my only question is, too soon?
Too soon?
Too soon?
No.
Too soon?
No.
So you've got Betty White,
Not
and
too
you've got Queen Elizabeth. It says final score: United States 99, England 96.
We win. USA.
Yeah, there you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. It's funny. I know some of you out there right now are like you're switching. You're closing the tab. You're closing the app. You're turning off your phone because you're mad at us. But you know what? That's funny. I don't care who you are.
That's it. Please.
And then we have one more because Mike cannot go without commenting on Florida versus California. He cannot. He just. I don't know what it is, man. He just feels this need to kick California while we're down.
That's it.
And this one says, crazy how Florida is hotter than California, but Florida has electricity. Number one, no, it is not hotter than California.
Yes, it is.
Well, not this last week.
Lies.
Anyway, not this last
Lies.
week. It was
Nothing burger.
Dude, we had at least 3
Lies.
days where it was over 110 in California last week.
It's a dry heat. Listen, with the wind chill, it was only like 108 there.
Anyway, good stuff. Good stuff. Definitely. Well, like I said, the point is they have electricity there. Here in California, we were dealing with threats of rolling blackouts. We actually had in some areas, we actually did have a few, like people were without energy for an hour or so. Not in my area, but then again, I have solar, so I don't worry about it.
Yep. Very true. Very true.
All right, Maggie, it's about that time. One more shout out to our sponsors before we roll.
Let's say goodbye to them and hello to you going to visit them at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net, hitmanindustries.net. If you got yourself an AR, odds are you probably got one of them barrels already, but it's time to go get your own barrel now. Do your own builds. Then we have the California Republican Assembly fighting the good fight behind enemy lines. Make sure you reach out and support them with a little donation or two. And, of course, if you want awesome tactical gear, stuff you can wear, uscombatgear.com.
Once again, the links are in the description to this program. Visit them, check them out, kick them down some cash, tell them the guys over at The Rundown sent you. Also, with that, we're going to call it a day, but please make sure that you like, share, subscribe. However you are partaking, encourage your friends to do the same. And we will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
We out.